welcome back to Coffee and Chaos. I'm Alina, your host, and look who's here.
Talofa.
There you go. How are you?
Good.
Are you
refreshed?
Are you?
It's not 9 o'clock in the morning.
I was starving till you fed me today. Thank you. I know. I was so hungry today. I barely ate anything, and she fed me. Even though Solomon didn't want to eat it, whatever.
What? Oh, sorry.
Are you?
I had bread trauma.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are you keto?
No.
Oh.
No, it was I had a piece of moldy cake from a baker that supposedly bakes cakes every day recently.
Moldy cake?
Yeah.
Wait, how did you know that? Like, where?
You smell it. You could smell it. So
I didn't know you could smell mold, though. That's
What
crazy.
is it?
Oh
smell like
yeah.
mildew?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did it
Smell it?
What?
So
Smell like mildew.
so anyway, I just had that smell and I thought I smelled it. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna go any further.
You got a trigger nose.
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
it was.
Maybe the milk was.
All right, well, hi, Solomon.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
Yeah, you're my second one today with the menopause. No,
What?
not menopause. Is it menopause? No, wait.
What'd you say?
What's the one with the hot stuff?
That's menopause.
Menopause.
Okay, that. Yeah.
Wait,
Wait,
you had
hold
another
on.
one about
Wait.
menopause?
No, he's saying that you have menopause. He's calling you out because you're fanning yourself.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
not ashamed. I'm
No, I know
years
you're
old
not.
and I'm going through menopause.
I know.
Not me. We rebuke that over here in the name of Jesus Christ.
Oh my
Hell no.
God.
I'm
No.
rubbing it off on
No.
you.
Yeah.
Jesus said she don't got time for menopause.
I'm just saying you're my second person today. That's what I'm saying.
Oh.
Second person that has menopause?
That's been using the fan.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know. I forgot it. My fan is charging.
Well, let's
Okay.
introduce Yami and ask her if she has menopause.
Girl, she's too young.
How are you, Yami?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Do you have menopause?
No, I don't. I'm too young for that.
How old are you?
I'm 35.
Oh, girl, to be 35. What would you do different at 35, Trina?
I don't want to do all that over. I
No?
don't wanna-
You don't want to do all the what over?
I don't want to go back. I don't want to be that age. I'm good right here.
Really? You wouldn't go back and change anything?
Nope.
No, because you already had Mike in your life.
I don't want to get married over again for the first time and all that other stuff. No, I'm good.
All right, well, let me ask you a question. If you
to.
had the opportunity
That's the
to,
menopause talking.
If you had the opportunity to live forever, what age would you want to live at?
Wait, say that again. I'm sorry.
If you had the opportunity to live forever, what age would you want to be?
50.
Ew.
Really?
Yeah. I am telling you,
Uh-uh.
I have said this time and time again, this is the best season of my life.
Mm. Okay, I want to be 30. I want to go back to 30.
Yeah, I'd be between 30 and 35.
Yeah, old enough to be taken seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-mm.
I could live in that era, especially with my kids, forever.
No.
In that era, I'd be perfect. Those are my prime years.
Yeah.
I
I
think.
talked about that at church today. I'm very content. This is where I want to be.
At
50.
50, your hip doesn't hurt when you go a certain way.
Things
you
are
don't
hurt.
get tired.
Things are hurting, but this is the best season of my life.
I still want to be able to whoop someone's ass. I don't want to be all old and
What makes you think you
51.
can't?
I think
'Cause
you
I'm
can. I
51.
think
I
you
know
can.
that's what I was gonna say. What makes you think you can't? Well, you don't even look 50.
I know. She's crazy. I'm like, I think you can.
Yeah, I think you can, and we're gonna go wherever she's going, wherever she
Yeah.
needs to go around here.
You're going to be my
Yeah.
backup.
Oh, we're going.
we're
going.
driving you.
After the podcast, if you hear Siren Solomon, we're good. Don't trip.
Wouldn't be the
Okay.
first time.
Yeah. Yami, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
I'm going to introduce you a little bit. I met you when your little brother and Seth played high school baseball together.
Yes.
From the city of San Pedro. Yes, very much, Solomon. San Pedro.
Pedro.
Mm-hmm. And the baseball families are pretty close, so we got to know each other and talk and everything like that. How's your mom?
She's good.
She's good.
Yeah, she's doing really well.
And your little brother, you were saying, is engaged.
yes, my little brother's engaged.
That is awesome. He's all a man now. You showed me
I
a picture. I was like,
know.
oh.
I'm proud of him. He's a really good guy. He's turned out
Good.
really well.
Good.
Well, you helped raise him.
Yes.
Well, you guys are a
My
tight
sister.
family. You guys raised you guys are very tight knit. You also had your little cousin, which we'll talk about on another episode.
Yeah.
You guys are very close.
Yes.
But today we're going to talk about your little 4-year-old
Yes.
and autism.
Mhm.
How old was he when you realized, like, maybe I should have this checked out?
Well, I think that there was quite a few things throughout, like when he was an infant. As the time went on, like he really didn't like crawl right away. Like he wasn't making like noises in in the sense of like ma, pa. Like he was very just pointing, and not even pointing. It was kind of just like little sounds.
This is before you turned 1.
Yes.
Okay.
And so I was like, well, every child is different and they develop differently. And obviously, I already have my daughter that's like 5 years older than him. And so I kind of just thought about it, but I was like, no, there's nothing really,
Did
like, I'm
he
just going to
eat?
leave it.
Did he eat at the stages that he was supposed to eat?
Yes.
That was one thing that was.
But I think like what it mostly got me was that he was not very, you know how when sometimes you look at babies and like you make faces and they'll smile.
He didn't react.
He didn't really like do those things. And so I just thought, oh, well, maybe he's just more of like a serious baby. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like it makes you wonder. But then I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I'm like, he's very little. Maybe it's a stage or he'll grow out of it or something. And so I allowed time to go by. And once he turned around 1, he wasn't really walking. I felt like he didn't have strength in his legs. And I couldn't understand like why. I don't know. My mom and everyone, oh, maybe he's just lazy, because some babies are just lazy. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll leave it, and left it, and would try to have him walk and nothing. And he wouldn't say ma, dada, mama, nothing. No words. There was no words that were coming out of him. And so at 16 months, I took him to the pediatrician because then I finally said, you know what, like there's something wrong, right? In the sense of like he's just not meeting his milestones where he should be. I looked up what his milestones should be at that point, and he wasn't even halfway through the list. There were so many like things that
Don't you go to checkups between that time?
And so when
nobody noticed anything?
No, because I would bring things up and it would kind of just be like, oh, every child, it was always the same thing. It's like every child develops differently, and, you can't compare one child to the other. And so I also trusted, the pediatrician. And so I said, okay, it's fine. So when we got to the 16 months and he still wasn't walking and he wasn't saying anything. And I was just like, no, I've had it, right? Like there's something going on. And I had my suspicions, but I was like, And so the problem kind of there is that then, you bring it up to like your spouse, and like my spouse wasn't very supportive at first. It was kind of like, no, there's nothing wrong with him. Like,
Do you think it's because of the fear of, because, well, I mean, I don't, do you think your partner, your spouse was fearful of like, oh no, there's something wrong?
Yes.
yes.
And
Yes. I
and
think
a
so.
lot of the fears, like it seems like it would stir up like all these doubts and things that like stir up, and then
And it's also because it can be like seen as a burden, right?
And that's
it's
his
also-
first boy, right?
Yes.
So, yeah.
And it's also like such taboo, like I've also heard like in other cultures, but like Hispanic cultures is very like, almost like frowned upon. It's like people are really not educated on it, on what it is. It's kind of like they want to stick every child that has autism in the same little box, and it's like they're all labeled the same, and it's not like that. And so I got a lot of pushback from, his dad, from, my family, and his family as well. Gave a lot of pushback, made very not so nice comments.
So you felt like you were the only one fighting for your
Yes.
child?
And so
That's scary.
it was scary because I felt like I'm going to stand up and I'm going to say something, and then what if they evaluate him and then they tell me that there's nothing wrong with him. And then I look like they say that I was crazy, that I was overreacting. And to me, it was like, well, how am I overreacting? It's the second time being a mom. I'm very observant, and I was watching everything that he was doing and everything that he wasn't doing that he was supposed to be doing at that age. So finally, we get to the doctor's appointment, and I told his pediatrician, and again, she tried to shrug me off and no, it's normal, no, it's normal. And then he got really upset, and I gave pushback to her, and I said, no, actually, it's not normal. He's 16 months. He's not walking. My son doesn't talk. He doesn't like certain noises. It's just not normal.
And normally, kids, the younger sibling wants to catch up to the older sibling.
Mm-hmm.
So, and sometimes the younger sibling will walk sooner or crawl sooner
Yeah.
because they're trying to catch up to that first sibling.
Yeah. And there was none of that happening. My son is very he was very in his own world,
Oh.
right? He was very playing toys by himself. He barely interacted, played with my daughter. So it was things like that too, you notice. And so finally she said, okay, well, she gave me a CDC pamphlet and she told me, we're going to make him an appointment at 18 months.
What is CDC?
It's what is it, the government?
Center for Disease Control? No.
Is it? Is
That's
it?
what I
I think
thought.
it is.
Yeah.
I think it is, but
Is
it was
it?
it has I guess that's where the milestones, they give you the milestones of the child based on age and what they should be doing. And so she told me by the time he reaches the 18 months, if he hasn't done everything on that checklist, then we will talk then.
Okay.
And I said, okay. And so we waited, till his 18-month appointment. And literally the week of his appointment, he barely started walking. So he was 18 months when he started walking.
And you obviously were trying
Yes.
and motivating him, and he just was not feeling it.
It wasn't that he wasn't. It's just that he would try and he couldn't. It was he did not have the strength to do it. He would fall. He was very clumsy. And it's also how? Why?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, maybe because, he just started walking. And so babies are clumsy when they barely start walking. But it was a lot of things. He would hit his head on tables. He didn't have no self-awareness almost, of things around him or where he was going. He would bump himself a lot. He would fall. And so it was it was not something that I had experienced before with any of my brothers, my cousins growing up. It was very different. And so that's why it triggered, flagged me, there's something going on.
The joy you must have felt though when he did start walking.
Oh my God. It was almost a relief.
Yeah.
Right? Because you think is there something that's medically wrong, right? That he can't walk?
Physically wrong with him. Yeah.
Is there something wrong with his bones or his muscles? That was going to be my next step if he wasn't going to walk, because it was already 18 months. He was already, big. So we went to the appointment, and then it's almost they totally forgot, or they didn't even write down my appointment right. Because then it was she did a physical and she's like, okay, that's it, we're good. And I was like, no, where are you going? What do you mean?
Yeah.
She's like, oh, yeah, he's great, he's doing good, and blah, blah. And I said, no, do you not remember what this appointment was supposed to be about? And then I refreshed her memory, and then she's like, oh yeah. And I told her, no, he has not completed that list. No.
Yeah. Do you feel in between the times of when it was your next appointment, obviously especially the one from the 16-month to the 18-month, you were obviously you're advocating for him because that's your job, you're his mom, but were you doing so much research for yourself because you were trying to prepare yourself for whatever might be the response of that next appointment?
So at that point, I was already on the fence of him having autism, just because I felt and not all children that have autism have the same exact, not symptoms, but the same exact things, right?
Yeah.
They're all very different, and some are nonverbal and some are verbal, high functioning, low functioning,
Is your son verbal?
Yes, now he is, yes. And so there was just a lot of things that were very similar, and I would see other parents TikToks or Instagrams, and I would see that it was the same. It almost felt like the same story, right? And so I was so in my head, I already felt I already know what this is, but I just wanted some type of confirmation, right?
Yeah.
Especially because there was so much pushback from everyone about no.
Yes.
And a lot of the comments were oh, there's nothing wrong with him, he's normal,
Yeah, but what is normal? Define nobody can define the word
and
normal.
the thing is you're right, there is nothing wrong with my son.
Yeah.
My son is perfect how he is.
Yeah.
it's just about getting him the help that he needs.
Right.
Yeah.
Because obviously if your child has some type of disability, you want to get ahead of anything,
Yeah.
especially with him not talking, the walking. It was just like, I need to get him help so that I can get him up to speed. Sorry, I can get him where he needs to be in life, because I'm not always going to be here.
Yeah.
Right. And that's my job as a mom.
Yeah.
Right. And so I just felt like they couldn't understand that.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So, at any point when you were going through this, did you consider getting a second opinion or a different doctor?
Um, yes. If after that 18-month appointment, if
Mhm.
it didn't go where I wanted it to go, then yes, I was going to find like a second opinion. But thankfully, she realized and she saw what I was talking about, because she made him walk, right? And she saw the really unsteadiness. Um, and there's something that she saw that she didn't tell me, but she was immediately like, yes, you need to go. Let me give you the information for the regional center
Mhm.
so that you can call and make an appointment, because they have to evaluate him. And I said, okay, that's fine. And this was in 2021. So it was like still COVID, right? So like a lot of things were virtual.
Mhm.
Thankfully, like this appointment with his pediatrician was in person. I got the um, I got the evaluation appointment with the regional center like really quick, within like a week after that appointment. And it was virtual, and they told me like what I needed in order to prepare. So like I had to, get like a spoon, and so that they can see how he holds things, and a book and certain things for him to interact with, so that they can better evaluate the situation.
Mhm.
And so for that appointment, his dad, was there, and I was there, and my son. And so they asked me a lot of questions about like the things that he does on a daily basis and what he doesn't do. They asked me to have him hold things and stuff, and he really didn't have like good grasps
The
of things.
mobility to
Yeah,
hold it.
like he couldn't really hold spoons. Like he just mainly would eat with his hands, but he just didn't have good motor skills.
Mm.
Um, so the evaluation took like about 2 hours.
Really?
Yeah, it was long because they go through so many. So my whole thing was like, oh, I just wanted them to evaluate him on his speech, right?
But you needed that though.
Yes.
You needed them to do
But
that
I
for
didn't-
however many hours.
Did
Yeah,
you feel
but I didn't
relief
know.
like someone's finally listening to you?
Yes, because I was like, okay, this is gonna.
Mhm.
I was relieved, but I was also very scared,
Mhm.
because I was like, this is gonna determine whether I was right, or were they right, and I'm just overreacting.
Yeah.
Right. And so after the whole evaluation and everything, it was like two doctors, and they were like, okay, well, we'll give you the results in about a week, and blah blah blah. Like, okay. So then we get a call in a week after, and they go down a list. So they do like everything. They do like motor skills, social skills, like behavioral, like speech. They do like so many like different categories. That's why it takes so long, right?
Mhm.
And they tell you
Mhm.
how delayed he is, and like he was 18 months, so they tell you in age how delayed he is.
Okay.
And so then they go down the list, right? And so we're both, me and his dad are sitting there, and they're talking to us or whatever, and they're going down the list, and then you hear like that he's delayed in like every single category, and it's like,
There's a part of you that's relieved that someone's hearing you, but now it's the reality of you were right, and it's going to be a lot more than what you even probably thought.
it just like my heart sank.
Like take
As
us
we're all
back
in tears
to-
now.
I know.
Yeah. So take us back to your heart sank, but that was what you needed to hear,
Yeah.
right? But were you scared for your son, or were you just thinking your life is going to be completely different because now you have to like you're going to have to deal with this journey that's being handed to you that you had already thought was already
I was completely afraid for my son,
okay
because
in this world.
this world is so cruel, right?
Yeah.
Like
They're cruel to us who can
regular
defend ourselves.
kids.
Yeah.
Like, and especially because like in high school I I TA'd for like the special education
Mhm.
class, and so I helped them when they did like their special like AA track and stuff.
Mhm.
And I built relationships with these kids, and I would see how other kids mocked
God
them.
was
And
prepping you and you didn't even know it.
oh, I know. I thought about it
Mhm.
after when you invited me and we talked about like the topic and
Mhm.
stuff. I used to go with my off topic really quick. My grandma used to work for the government, and every summer when I would go to TJ, she would take me sometimes to work with her. She would come work in San Diego. She was a caregiver for kids with disabilities. And my grandma was a little short old lady, and she would carry these kids that were, some of them were already 18, and they were big kids. And she
Mm.
would carry them to the tub and bathe them,
Oh,
feed them, and she'd take me with her because she would tell me so I wouldn't be bored, but it was to help her because she had a hard time.
yeah,
And she was
Mhm.
older and she was like 4 foot something.
yeah,
And, it made me think about all this stuff. Like,
Well, it
I,
helped your heart too.
yeah,
yeah. God was
because
preparing you to get ready. He knew what was coming. And people don't believe that, but he knows before us what's going to come.
yeah. And
Uh,
so it's like, it's crazy.
do you do you feel, because I'm sure this is something not just for in regards to um, the autism, but I think people do think when things happen, like you're being punished or it's my fault or it's your fault, or did you feel like that at the time? Like why is
No.
this happening to us, or why is this happening to my baby?
No, I felt like my son couldn't have landed in
Better
a
hands.
better hands.
Did you just feel more protective of him?
Yes,
Like
immediately.
I need to make sure that he's safe always
Mhm.
now
Well, she
moving
already
forward.
had that motherly. She had that instinct already from when she was
Yeah.
noticing
Things,
things.
yeah.
So then, like, they gave us like their recommendations of what my son needed, and so he needed, like, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech therapy. And so they immediately started the paperwork to kind of get us going and get all that started for him and stuff. And so I said, okay, like the sooner the better, like I'm ready. And I know that it's gonna be challenging with like work and all this stuff, but I mean I have to make it happen. He's my son and
Mhm.
he comes before anything,
Anything.
right? So immediately after we got off that call, my my son's dad looked at me and he apologized to me. And it just was very
Yeah.
it gave me like a wow, because he knew
But it's
all the
harder for people, I think. I don't want to say men because that's not what I'm saying, but you are the mom, you gave birth, you saw the signs, and men aren't in the first year or two. I don't feel men are as close. And Solomon, I don't mean to be disrespectful to men, but because maybe you were, but I felt like women, when we do the breastfeeding for the most part, we put them to bed at night. So there's a little bit more of a bond in the first few years.
yeah,
So he probably felt bad after, like, oh crap,
he
like,
did. He said that, he should have never doubted me because I'm their mom and I know what's best.
He was
Mhm.
probably
oh,
more scared than
Yeah.
anything, though.
Yeah. Oh, he was
Yeah.
because I didn't realize how delayed he was on everything,
Mhm.
and so hearing it was very scary because some of the things he was delayed and he was like at a like a 6 month level, right? And
oh
he's 18
wow.
months. And so that's very scary,
Mhm.
right? Because you're like, how are we going to get him up to speed, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Are you going to be able
yeah,
to?
no, you can.
Really?
Early intervention is very important.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people don't
And
don't
is it
understand.
the one question I asked you, which will lead into that is, I asked you, is there different levels? And you said there's spectrums, right?
Yes. So back in the day, it used to be just like a straight line, and it was kind of like from like okay to like not okay, right? But everyone was like in the same category.
Mhm.
Now there is still a line, but it's like how much help do they need, right? Do they need like are they high functioning? Are they high functioning but they need some help? And are they like they really, really, really need help?
Yeah.
But besides that bar, there's like a pie chart with like different things on there as to like language and behavioral, and it's based on the evaluation that they do for autism. The psychologist will advise you like where he is on each each category
Mhm.
so that they can see what actual help,
Because
more help they need.
there's some spectrums where kids, like the nonverbal ones, I have actually quite a few friends that have them, and some of them are functioning, and some they will have to be with them for the rest of their life. They're not self sufficient.
Mhm.
So, will your son be able to grow up and live a life of his own, or will he still have to reside with you? And
Um,
Or is it too soon to tell?
I
yeah,
think
true.
I think that eventually my son will be okay
Mhm.
to be on his own. Um, and I'd like to contribute that to like all the help that he's gotten since. Because if I would have just ignored it, or if I would have believed the other voices,
Yeah.
my son wouldn't be where he's at today. And he probably would not even be talking.
Do you think it's easier in 2025 than it was in 1980
Oh yes,
Yes.
to
definitely.
get the help and to
Yes.
fight the voices?
Yes.
Because, and like you said, in 2025, even your group, your core didn't listen to you. So in 1980, like the outside people didn't listen. So if you didn't have your inside help and then you didn't have your outside help, it's a lot different.
Mhm.
And I know my friends that have it, they have one of them's going to live with her probably forever because she just, and I think she's amazing for it. She refuses to put him in a home. She has a lot of help as far as like he goes to a daily school and stuff like
Mhm.
that, but she knows he's going to be with her forever. But he gets to go to the school, he gets to be with his friends, which gives her a little bit of a break to clean
Mhm.
the house, go grocery shopping, go to work, all that stuff. But if that wasn't in place there, I couldn't imagine.
The struggle and the hardships that as a parent would face. Even now, it is a big struggle. Um, Shortly after that, so that was like September of 2021, and then he finally started speech therapy in December of that year. So he wasn't 2 yet; he was almost 2, and at that point, it was being provided by the regional center because the insurance um, they didn't have they were trying to send him to a facility, but they didn't have room. And so the regional center was like, fine, like we'll pay for it until they open up space and then so that he can go there. So we had a therapist that would come to our home every week, once a week. And she started, doing speech therapy with him and stuff. And at that point, he only had one word in his vocabulary, and it was car.
Oh,
Mhm.
My son is
typical guy, huh?
infatuated
Mhm.
to this day, infatuated with cars, with monster trucks. That's his thing, and
Mhm.
he is just happy with that.
So
With
your
So yeah.
insurance covers the speech therapy that comes once a week.
yes,
What if you didn't have health insurance?
I'd have to pay out of pocket.
They
What
don't
about
have
what
government
about
Well,
coverage.
people that don't?
they do have Medi-Cal. So keep in mind that the regional center like does help you with a lot of things. They give you they do give you resources, and they also give you like places where to go, like because as a parent and going through something like this your first time, and you've never experienced or had anyone that experience something like this, you feel lost and you don't know what
Mhm.
to do. And so the regional center gives you a lot of like there's like parent
Support groups.
support groups and things that you can join. Um, or there's different like activities for the kids that they can sign up that the regional center will pay for. Um, they have events there too.
If you have the insurance so it pays for it, I guess what I'm trying to get to is if I didn't have insurance and that was my kid, but I was on Medi-Cal, and so would we still get the same help or would I get
Yes and
less
no.
help? Okay.
So they also had me enroll him into Medi-Cal, right? I didn't want to because the way that Medi-Cal works
Mhm.
is that all this is free now, right? But later on in life, you will pay for it. They will charge you. It does come out of somewhere. It's
Oh.
not just free.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So that's why I was like, no, I don't want to burden, myself with anything. Like my insurance can pay for it. It's fine. And then the girl that helped me she's still like my coordinator. I love her so much. She's very nice and sweet. And she told me, no, no, no. You and I told her I'm not gonna qualify because I make too much in their eyes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she said, no, it doesn't matter. Your son had a disability, and so he automatically is
Qualifies.
qualifies for Medi-Cal.
Okay.
And she said, just do it because they will pay, whatever your primary insurance doesn't cover, they're going to take over. So that way you won't have a bill.
Oh, that's good.
She's like, so just do it.
Yeah.
Just trust me and do it. I said, fine. So I did. And they did give it to him. And he also gets like, we didn't, she said like, oh, apply for like the SNAP benefits or like, almost like kind of like EBT.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But like he didn't qualify
Because you
for
make too
that,
much
for
money.
that. Yeah. I'm like, I don't really care. It was all part of like one packet. So
Yeah.
it's not like I could, and
Yeah.
so, but he did get the Medi-Cal. So I was like, okay, fine. So he started his speech therapy, and we were still pending the PT and the OT because that one, I had to wait for spots to open where at the facility. And he
PT is
started-
physical therapy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is OT oral therapy?
Occupational.
Occupational
So for
therapy.
his motor skills.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Just in case whoever's listening. And I asked about the insurance because if someone's listening who they think that their kid might or might not have it, sometimes health insurance is a big thing for them.
Mhm.
And they're like, well, he has it, but I can't afford anything.
So the difference with the Medi-Cal is just that, like, what facility you're gonna go to, right? And
Mhm.
obviously, it's not gonna be the best facilities just because it's Medi-Cal, unfortunately.
I don't know. I'm going to argue that. And the reason I'm going to say is that
Ugh.
I went and visited because I don't want to give out too much. I went and visited one of it was in LA, the children's hospital. Like, and so you walk in and all these kids have like broken arms, broken thing. And it was for the child was on Medi-Cal, right?
Mhm.
That place was so clean and they were on it. Like if your appointment was at 10:30, you checked in at like 10:20, they called you at 10:30. They got you in, they did this, they did that. Like everybody was there and it was clean and it was quick and it was awesome. It was Children's Hospital in LA and it was the UCLA doctor that came and saw the kid and it was all Medi-Cal patients. And it was predominantly a lot of Hispanic kids in there and then the people were bilingual, but it was because I even thought like, oh my God, it's what it's going to be like. It was beautiful. I will say I was highly impressed.
They might have had a grant or something like that.
Something, but it
Yeah.
was great.
So I think that I think mostly just because the fact that I work in the medical field and I've worked with a lot of patients that have Medi-Cal and they don't have such a great experience, especially with like if they get a doctor that they don't quite like, switching doctors can be very
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah.
I feel like something like this though should just be some kind of thing that it should just be across the board. Like
You would think
it's really
but
hard.
There's so many roadblocks and there's so many things that it's like, you almost don't know where to go, right? It's it can be hard to maneuver especially if you're not being heard. That's I feel like that's one of the biggest problems. Like if you feel something as a parent, like you have your mom sense or your dad sense, right? Like there's something wrong,
Mhm.
it just get it checked out and
But
let
to-
them determine.
But
if
to
there's
get it
something else.
checked out, you have to have a pediatrician's prescription.
Yes.
You can't just call the regional center and say,
No.
I think my child might have this.
No, you have to. From what I understood, you have to be referred by the pediatrician. And if you
Okay.
don't like what one pediatrician has to say and you don't agree, then go to another one.
Yeah.
It's your right to do.
Yeah.
And as long as the response that you get lands good with you, is you're
Yeah.
good with it, then But if it's not, then go somewhere else and get another opinion and go from there. But he started all his therapies and he's been doing great. He's progressed so much with his speech. He now puts sentences together. And, when he turned 3 was the first time that he said, mom. And I caught it on video and
Mm.
I didn't even realize it until after when I was rewatching it and I heard him.
I'm going to cry.
I
Oh.
cried my eye because I feel like you as a parent and you have your kids and stuff, you take all these things for granted.
Yeah.
You don't know
Oh.
how much you take these things for granted until it's happening to you. And, you don't hear your son's voice or you don't get to see them walk. Like these to other people it's like little things, but to you it's like the world, right?
And
Just
everything's
saying
been
mom.
so delayed that when it was actually happening, you weren't really thinking like,
Yeah.
this is when he's gonna say it, or So now that he's bigger, like older,
Mhm.
and he's progressing, during the time of like when he first started all the the testing and evaluations through the regional center and doing the OT and the PT. Between then and now, was there a time where you were like didn't want him to be out in the world with all the other kids? You wanted to focus on getting him to where he needed to be
No,
first.
I actually wanted him to, and we have there really isn't any like kids his age with my family.
Mm-hmm.
They're all mostly a little older, like my daughter's age, like 5 years difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted him to like get play with the kids, and
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like the more that he was around other kids, it would probably make him want to talk or make him want to express himself,
Yep.
Mhm.
and so I felt like the more that I tried to, if I, didn't let him do that, then I was also holding him back.
Yeah.
And so I was like, nope, let him go. He would go to like the playgrounds, and but he really wasn't interested in like really playing with other little kids. And I don't know if it had a lot to do with just that he felt like he couldn't communicate, and he was very frustrated. My son was
Mm-hmm.
already very frustrated with himself, and he would get frustrated with us, and he would throw really bad tantrums. And it was just because he couldn't communicate,
Yeah.
right? He
Well, think about it as an adult, when we argue with our spouse or our friends and they're not listening to us, what do? We yell, we scream, we hang
Mhm.
up, we get pissed, we
Yeah.
throw tantrums because we feel like we're not being heard.
Yeah, so he would, like, throw himself to the floor, he would
I
bang
think
his
I've done that once.
he would bang his head
As
on,
an
like,
adult.
the
You
right?
know. When I didn't get my way.
He would hurt himself, he'd bang his head on, like, the floor, the wall, anything that he could hurt himself with because it was so much pent up,
Mm-hmm.
frustration that he
And
had.
has that been better since he's gotten a lot of the help?
Yes, so it's actually
Good.
completely gone.
Oh,
Yeah, like,
wow.
he no longer, does that. He now uses his words and he'll tell us like what it is that his needs are, right? Like if he's hungry or like he wants to play or he wants this or that. Like, there's times that he doesn't. He'll just be like, and his speech therapist is like, no, you have to make him talk. Like,
What happens when he uses words you don't wanna hear? Like, "No, mom."
oh, he does it all the time. He learned no, and it was like that was over. It was over.
Aw.
Like
But are you grateful for that "no,"
yes,
though?
yes.
Yeah.
Like, but he's very polite. He'll be like, no, thank you.
Oh,
Mm.
how's your daughter with him?
Oh, they're like best friends. So
Oh.
my daughter does have at times a bit of a rough time with everything, because she feels a certain type of way, right? And it's understandable. She feels that we pay more attention to him, and
Mhm.
we have explained to her, that her brother has autism and that he just requires a little bit of more help.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that we love him more, we love her any less. It's just that he just needs a little more of our attention, and we just have to give it to him and help him so that he can grow and he can learn and
As
so
she
yeah.
gets older, does she understand it more?
Yes. She now sometimes she's like, oh, she goes to school and my brother has autism.
She's
Oh.
probably very protective of
Yeah.
him too.
She is, but they get along so great. They play together, and I a lot of my son's progression, I feel like has to do with her because she talks to him, and now he's in that phase like he copies. She'll tell him like, "Oh, Ezra, say this," and he'll do it.
Oh.
So I feel like she also is
Mm.
teaching him a lot,
Yeah.
and so she's a great big help
Yeah.
to
Oh,
to
that's
us.
awesome.
Yeah.
How have you seen the rest of your family from before when they didn't believe you to
Mhm.
now? How have you seen that change in how they interact with your son?
Um, so when initially like he got so to go back a little bit. So he got evaluated by the regional center, but that didn't mean that he got diagnosed with autism. So in order for a child to get diagnosed with autism, you have to wait until they're 3 or close to 3 in order for them to have a psychological evaluation, and then they will determine whether he has autism or not.
Oh, okay.
So, at the time, when we did through the regional center and stuff, I spoke to my parents and I let them know, like, that he was severely delayed in a lot of the things, and that we just had to help him and help him just kind of catch up to speed and until he gets into his therapies and everything. And it's very hard. They don't really quite understand. It was just kind of like, no, he's just little and
Do you
it's
think it comes with the
normal.
culture?
Yes. Because I think that, back in obviously in their day, there wasn't any of this, right?
Yeah.
So there wasn't any like, oh, he's delayed in social skills and motor skills. But, they could tell because there was, they can see that he was very unsteady on his feet, that he really couldn't grasp things. They can see it. It was just, I felt like it was more of a denial, right?
Yeah.
Because they just didn't want to accept it. Um, but they didn't treat him any different. My mom always was like, "Okay, well, he's delayed, but it doesn't mean like he can do it, right? It's just gonna take a little extra time, but he can do it."
She's like, you're not getting special
Yeah.
treatment. You are still going to
Yeah,
do.
No,
yeah.
definitely.
You're still
definitely.
gonna wash dishes when you're old enough. Don't worry.
Yeah. So there was no different treatment,
Yeah. Which is good though. I
Yeah.
think sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. So then, it took, by that time he was almost 2. So we had to wait a whole year for him to get his psychological evaluation. And in that time as well we were pending an LAUSD eval as well, because they do their own. So they don't go, I'm like, that's so stupid. They don't go based on like the psychological evaluation. They have to do their own.
So being that they do their own, they don't compare whatever it is that their findings are with the LAUSD, but they're going to start categorizing him within the school.
Yes, because they're going based on like the regional centers evaluation. So because they take so once you're like, I guess, so everything that happens with the regional center, it goes into like a database for like the government. So that's how like they kind of keep track of the kids that I guess need help or have some sort of
Imagine
disability.
how many kids, and I'm sure you've seen it somewhere along the line, just being out or whatever. There's people that won't get the help, that
Yes.
don't want to deal with it or accept it or anything like that.
Oh, there's a lot.
Or
still.
even older kids whose parents didn't know that the help is as available as it is now. And so you have all these kids that do have it and they had no
And they've
help.
never been diagnosed. Yeah.
Yes.
It's crazy because my coordinator at the regional center, actually, when I first met her, she told me, that my son was really young, that he was one of the youngest that they've had. And she's like, but I really commend you as a parent. She's like, because you were very vigilant, like
Yeah.
you noticed a lot of things, and that's
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
got you in here.
Yeah.
She's like, but usually, she's like, typically, I only see kids here that are like first grade, and they're barely coming here.
What's
like-
the oldest, I wonder, that they can go and get? Like,
So the regional center only deals with like kids, so up
Under
to like
18.
18,
okay.
and then after that, I'm not quite
For
sure
sure.
where they move on from. I'm sure it's like a different facility
Faci-
that
yeah.
that assists them, but this one is just for like the kids.
Got it.
Not to backtrack, because obviously moving forward is better for like his situation now. It's like you said, he's progressing, he's getting better, he's only gonna get better.
Mhm.
But now that you mentioned that like he was the youngest, I wonder if like within the doctor's case, where they're like, oh well, I can't really tell right now, he's so little, like I can't tell, we gotta wait till he can walk. He's actually like a
Mhm.
toddler, and then we'll be able to tell. Do you think maybe that's why there was a delay in their like being adamant about, okay, you know what, you're right, mom. Maybe they're like in their mind they wait to see like, we'll wait till he's 2.
Yeah, I think so. So, and that's the biggest thing as to why they wait until the child's like 3 or closer to 3 to do
Mhm.
the psychological evaluation
Mhm.
to determine if they have autism or not. Because what I heard was that a lot of kids that were younger showed like symptoms of autism, but then they grew out of it. It was
Yeah.
like a phase.
Mm.
So then they were getting misdiagnosed, and there was a lot of issues, and so that's why they felt like 3 was like a good starting point. But what the coordinator was mentioning was that it was kids that were already in first grade, second grade, that were barely getting diagnosed, barely going through the process. And so at that point, she's like, the kids are like very behind in all the help that they need.
Yeah.
It's just gonna take extra time to kind of catch them up to speed and to try to get them to where they need to be, right?
Mm.
But she said, he's very small, but like I'm glad that you're here and that he's gonna get the help, that
Yeah.
he needs. And so she's the one that helped me, get in contact and do everything with LAUSD, with getting the psychological evaluation. And so we had the psychological evaluation in January of last year. No, 2023. I think it was
2
23.
years ago.
23 or 20. No, where are we? 24.
We're in 25. 2025.
No, it was last year.
Okay, 24.
Yeah. So we did the psychological evaluation, and the same day, some people like they have to wait a week, 2 weeks for results, and she gave me results right away. But she noticed like things before we even got into the room, and things that he barely. So there's things that he barely starts to do now that it's like, okay, obviously there's something, but he wasn't doing it like a while ago. So when we went to the psychological evaluation, he had started walking only on one foot and his tippy toe. And if you look at like kids with autism, like videos and stuff, that's kind of one of the things is that they tend to walk sometimes on their tippy toes, but usually it's like both feet.
Mm-hmm.
But he was just doing it on one, and he had been doing it just for like a couple weeks before we even went to that appointment. And when we were walking into her office, she turned around, to watch him, and she saw him. He would walk, and then he would just do this, and he would walk, and he would do that, and but it was just so random, and he was still very like not very steady on his feet, and so those little things, like she noticed every single little thing that he did that was like an automatic like
Yeah.
yes, and she tried to have him play with like toys and try to talk to him a little bit, and like she noticed, he really couldn't.
How's his eye contact? Because that's a big sign.
Yes and no, because there are kids that can see, look at you while they
Mm-hmm.
talk to you and they're autistic, and then there's others that just won't do any eye contact at all. But he's in between both. He will look at you, and he'll say something, but then he'll look away. Um, Sometimes you talk to him and he just won't. He gets hyper focused on things, and so he doesn't hear anything. You kind of have to go up to him and like, hey, I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking to you, and then he'll be like, oh,
So you have to have a lot of patience.
yes.
How are you between working, 2 kids, and having him and all his doctor's appointments and all his stuff? Like, that's a lot to
It
have on your
is.
plate.
It is. So, thankfully have or I have my people at work, that were very, especially like my manager and my supervisor were very understanding of the situation, and they were my big support, through a lot of the things. I feel like it's really hard for like I don't know. I don't really tend to like fall back on like family or friend. I don't like to burden people with like my stresses in life, like um but it is hard and it's very lonely, and I felt like, well, with his dad, like yeah, I could tell him things, because obviously we're both going through it. It's not just me,
Yeah.
but I feel like there's certain, I don't know, aspects like as a mom that I have more fears for him than he does, right? Like he's very like, oh, let him be a boy and everything, and I'm just like, like everything
Yeah.
scares me, and it's just because I feel like people are not very understanding, or people are very judgmental, right? Like, oh, he doesn't have a disability that's visible, and so
So you go to you're going to a group with moms and their kids, and they're all the same age. Do you initially explain to these people before your son is interacting with the other kids? Here, this is what my son has. He's autistic, or do you let them engage and let him learn, or do you are your is your mommy protective mode on, and you're like, okay, let me just tell them first, so we don't have
a tip,
we don't make a scene here, and then I have to
right?
leave the
No,
scene.
I actually don't. I let him roam,
Okay.
and I don't say anything, but I follow behind him, because
Okay.
my son does tend to do things that can in other people's eyes can be seen as mean, right? Like if he's going through somewhere and he will sometimes shove another kid because the kid's in his way, like things like that. That he obviously, it's just not that he's doing out of ill intent. It's
Yeah.
just part of,
Like, move.
yeah.
So
And
you don't stop and say, "Oh, I'm sorry."
but so I do try to, correct him. I tell, like, if I see him approaching like a baby or something, and I tell him, no, 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 like, be careful with the baby, like, so I do try to somewhat tell him.
Mhm.
He's gotten good now that he goes to school. He's kind of gotten better with those types of situations.
So he's 4 and he goes to school.
Yes. So he actually goes to through LAUSD. He goes to a special education class. It's called the PALS program.
So will he continue to be evaluated with the regional and LAUSD since he's in the school system now?
No, LAUSD will evaluate him. They evaluate them every. It depends. It's typically like it's every year. If you as a parent want like a sooner one, you can request one.
Okay.
But
Why would you want one sooner?
because there could be changes
Okay.
that you feel that maybe he doesn't need to be in special education anymore. Maybe
Okay.
he can be in a regular class, but just have like an aide, right?
Mhm.
And that to help him. Um, but I don't really have that much faith in LAUSD based on my experience with them
Mhm.
in regards to everything that transpired with my son with this particular enrolling him and everything. It was a huge hassle. And I completely just,
What would be your other option if he's not in LAUSD?
I'd have to put him like in a different, like a different district. And I can,
Right.
you know,
'Cause especially if you work in another, like if you work somewhere like in a different city,
yes.
you could put them in that.
So
Yes.
that falls in the same line as all the other kids that are going to school. Like, this is what we have to offer you. If you don't like it, move to another city in another district.
Yes, but it wasn't even so much that. So after he got evaluated and he got his diagnosis, right? You know, a couple weeks after that, we had to do the whole thing with LAUSD and do their own evaluation and everything, and we did it. Um, and then after the evaluation, they told me, okay, well, yes, your son does show signs of autism, and they gave me and his dad like a plan, right? Like this is the plan that this is what we have to offer, which was at the time he was still 2. He was going to turn 3 like in a couple weeks, and they said, oh well, there's an after school program that he has to do twice a week, and it's from this time to this time. It was only 90 minutes, right? Twice a week. And
At
then
3?
sorry?
At 3 years old?
Yes.
Okay.
But they actually enrolled him right before he was 3, so he was still 2 at the time,
Oh.
which technically he wasn't even supposed to start until he was 3. So that was one, right? But whatever. So then she said after that program is over, then he can start the actual school in the fall. And keep in mind that we were like in February when this was happening, right? And so I said, okay, it sounds good, that's fine with me and everything. They didn't give no options, no nothing. It was just this is the plan and that's it. I said, okay. We signed off on it because you have to sign off on it's called the IEP.
Mm.
And so it's a legal binding document,
Yeah.
right? So if you don't agree, then you don't sign it, right? Until you come to an agreement, they change things and then you sign it. Because once that's done, in order for you to get changes done on an IEP, it's a nightmare, right? Of course, I don't know none of this because I'm a first time
Yeah.
parent going through this and I didn't have anyone to tell me, right? So we agreed with me and his dad said, fine, it sounds like a good idea. Let's do it, all this stuff. So we started the following week is when he started the after school program. And he was still 2. And, we went to one of the elementary schools, which I had a horrible experience the first day that we even went. The ladies in the office were very rude, didn't acted like they didn't know what the hell I was talking about when I told them that my son was there. It was an after school program, right?
Yeah.
And so school's already done, but there's still people in the administration office. And so I went in and I'm like, hey, I think we were like 30 minutes early because I didn't know where we were going to go, like what was going to happen. And so I told them like, hey, I'm not quite sure where I'm going. Like, can you point me in the right direction? Can you tell me? And they were like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what that is.
Wow.
I don't know what
But
that
you would think
with attitude.
considering what you're going for.
No,
Yeah.
they just didn't give two shits. It was like so rude. And then so I like got out of the office and I'm sitting like in the little like where the door is to open for the school. And it's like a hallway. And so I'm sitting there and I'm telling his dad, like, hey, I don't know. They're telling me that like they don't know what I'm talking about, like all this stuff. And then when that happened, like another parent came in with their child that also had autism. And they were already in that program, right?
Okay.
But so she went into the office and she was like, oh, I was trying to see like about the teacher, Miss So and so. And then they're like, I don't know if she's gonna come in or not, you know? And then the office administration's like, oh, she's not coming in today, right? But like that. So then that mom came out and like the dad of that parent was parking. So then when the dad finally came in, she's like, they're telling me that she's not coming in, but she didn't send a message through the school, like the
Yeah.
app to say like she wasn't going to be here today. And then she's like, I'm trying to call her, but the number, like she's not answering or whatever. So as they were like walking out and leaving, here comes the teacher, right?
Oh.
And then I'm like, I'm
Was that
just
a
like in
sign for you? Like,
disbelief.
I'm not gonna bring my son here.
I was just in such utter disbelief, right?
Yeah.
And I was so upset. And I told that teacher, like, that staff is so rude. It's
There's no
like,
empathy.
no, it was like they acted so stupid, like that. And I went back in there. And I went when the teacher came in, I went back in there, and I had the dad like leave the door open, and and the other parent heard me, and I said, I thought you said that you didn't know what I was talking about, but you just told that mom that she wasn't coming in, the teacher, and then she's right here.
So they just
So
didn't
what?
know. They
Yeah.
just didn't.
Are you dumb?
Yeah.
And what'd they say?
She just, oh, I just didn't know what you were. No, you knew what I was talking about because I told you what I was here for.
Yeah.
They just don't want to deal with
They,
it.
And-
that's what it is. They just didn't want to deal
Yeah,
with it.
I
at
was
all.
like, oh my God. And then I walked out, I was so pissed. So then we went to the program, whatever. So that first day that we were at the program, the teacher was by herself. Typically, there's someone from LAUSD that's with her. And the lady that's usually with her is the one that is one of the people they evaluated my son. She's like Ukrainian or Russian. She has a thick accent, right? So she she wasn't there that day. So the teacher actually told me and another parent, she gave us insight and told us that our kids didn't even need to go to that program, that our kids could immediately just start the school.
Oh.
That in them, if she's like, they can stay here, it's fine, but then they're going to miss out on like 6 months of school, like that they can get ahead.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, like, why didn't they? And she's like, they just don't tell you because one, you're not going to know. And two, they don't want to spend the money, And so she gave me verbiage on how to write my email. She helped me. She was the sweetest. I love her so much.
The
Yeah.
teacher that came late.
Yes,
Oh.
she
So it
was
was worth
very
the wait.
helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I did what she asked me. It was a nightmare to go through LAUSD. So many complaints. I was so pissed with the coordinator that I got. She was very unhelpful. I cussed her out on the last day.
I just feel like if you don't have the patience for this job, this
Why
is
are
a
you
very
there?
specific
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
You're not going to teach a bunch of kindergartners, right?
Yeah.
These are kids that really need attention and special
Mhm.
help. Why don't do it if you don't have the patience.
Towards the end, when I finally got a hold of the coordinator and she was going to change everything and stuff, and she had the audacity to tell me, well, you're lucky that I even called you back because not everybody complains like you. And I told her, well, if you would do your job properly and correctly, I wouldn't have to have called everybody and their mama to get a hold of you.
I said, well, God made me a warrior for my son. So
And
you
I
should
told
look
her,
out.
you might not care about my son, but that's why he has his mom.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, and I got it done. And then I got him into school and he's been going to school. We had a little tiff there with the teacher too, but smoothed it out. And he's been doing amazing. Like
Oh,
Good.
the school really helped him just flourish.
That's awesome.
So
You have to come back. I can't believe it already went. Like our time's gone because we have so many more topics with you that we were talking
yeah.
about before. Because I want to know how you're doing. Like I asked you real quick and you gave me the basic answer, but It can't be easy.
No.
It can't be. There has to be struggles. You know, I have 2 kids as a single mama, and those kids. There's moments where I was like, "Do I jump off the bridge?" Or and it's just a quick moment. You know, you just go crazy. So you definitely have to come back. But thank you
Yes.
so much, and sharing your story is so amazing. Like you're a hell of a woman. Thank you
Thank
so much, Yami.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You
Thank
have
you for
anything
having
last
me.
to say?
No, girl. If I start talking and asking her questions, we're not gonna leave.
And we're all gonna start
You
crying.
just
huh?
have to bring her back.
Yeah, you do have to come back. Thank you, Solomon. You got
you.
all your
But
questions?
she has to say
Yes.
what it says on her shirt.
Oh yes. What does your shirt say?
Oh, so there's a like a shop it's a lady. It's a small business. She has a daughter that has Down syndrome, and so she created like teas and things to bring awareness.
Yeah.
And so this just says strong as a special needs mother.
Oh, that is.
She has
super
a lot of
cute.
stuff. I think it's called like Amorcito Official, something like
Is
that.
that on Instagram?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And she just has a lot of good merch, and
Yeah.
it brings awareness
Yeah.
to everyone.
I really will say this. I have seen over the years. I think all of us. There's more awareness. It's open now. You could talk about it now. It's not taboo anymore. Yeah.
And
Well,
hats off to you. I love
for
that.
sure.
I love
Thank
that
you.
you did it. You advocated for your baby.
Yes.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. We all have Instagram. Do you have TikTok, Yumi?
I do.
But you don't really go on.
I do, but I just go
You
on
do
to watch
research?
videos.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
YouTube, like, subscribe, please comment. And until next time, thank you. Bye.